Hello YouTube, hello world, hello everybody. Maybe a little bit ambitious thinking I can get to the world here, but here's what we're going to do here. I'm going to give this thing a try, this YouTube channel thing a try. And as you can see, I'm sitting in a Tesla Model 3. And this is the big buzz in the entire Tesla community. It's the most popular car in the Tesla community. And upon doing all my research, I've seen a lot of videos, I've watched a lot of videos and done a lot of research watching those videos, and I thought to myself eventually down the road, well, I can do this. I have some insight and some ideas on what to do with the car and everything about the car in general. So let's give this a shot. Let's see if we can do this. Let's see if I can put myself into the YouTube world with everybody else who's involved with Tesla. And in particular, it's going to be the main focus, the only focus is going to be on the Model 3. I've never had a Model S. I've never had a Model X. And you know why? I can't afford them. If I could, I'd own them both. I'd have a Roadster. I'd have all the cool Tesla things, but I can't do it. And I'll be honest with you, getting this car was a stretch. 100%. More and more people are getting in these Tesla Model 3s. And even though the majority or a lot of people were holding out for the $35,000 Tesla, that's still not available yet. That being said, there are a lot more people who are able to get into that $50,000 price range, including myself. And again, like I said, it's a bit of a stretch. And I would much rather pay $35,000 for a car that's a much more comfortable level for me. I plan on calling this channel, or calling myself, if you will, Frugal Tesla Guy. Tesla Frugal Guy. Frugal Tesla Guy. All right, well, we'll still work on the name of it, but what I really want to focus on with this is just kind of, like a lot of the other guys and gals out there with their Tesla channels, is to give some insight on different things, different news, different software updates, different third-party items that you can buy for the car, such as floor mats, and there's different wraps that you can get for the center console. These are all things that we'll kind of get into in future videos. But that's the kind of idea. It's just kind of focusing on the Model 3, though. I don't want to talk about the Model S or the Model X. I can't do that, right? Because I've never owned those cars, and maybe one day I'll be able to. But until then, I'm gonna have to settle for the Model 3. I got to be honest, this is a beautiful car. And just to kind of give you a backstory before getting into this Model 3 and how this has been quite the journey for me to get here behind the wheel and to be able to say that I own one of these cars. It's been a long journey. It's since the beginning, right? We all think back to when the Model S first came out, and it was one of those situations where you kind of just bow your head and you go, oh, I can't get into one of those. It's $100,000 by the time you add all the different options that make it, a better car. I mean, even at $70,000 at its base, I think it was around $60,000 or $70,000 base. But again, by the time you add the tech package and all the other things, leather and the panoramic roof, all that stuff, it just started getting higher and higher. And of course, the bigger battery made all the difference in the world as well. So once the Model S came out, knew it wasn't going to happen. Once the Model X came out, also knew it wasn't going to happen. But then that one day when Elon Musk came on the stage and said, we are going to make the Tesla Model 3, it'll be $35,000 to start. Well, to be honest, I knew realistically that I was never going to get into one for $35,000. I knew that I was going to want to get the longer range battery, so I knew from the get-go that my car was going to be more than $35,000. But again, that all being said, what we're looking at here is a car that's still very expensive. So what I did when Elon made that announcement, as I knew I couldn't get in a Model S, I knew I couldn't get in a Model X, but I did want to be an electric car in general. So I went down to the Nissan store and I leased for 3 years, because that was the projected time that Elon said he'd have the Model 3 in production. So I said, perfect. I'm going to lease the Tesla, excuse me, not the Tesla, dream on, right? No, I was going to lease the Nissan Leaf for 3 years. And once the lease was up, I was going to get to the Model 3, and all was perfect in the world. Well, 3 years later, here I am in this Leaf, and the lease is up, and the Model 3 was still nowhere in sight. So I said, all right, fine. I went out and just bought it. It was like, I think I bought it for like $10,000, and then of course I financed that. And I continued to drive the Leaf. Then at some point, they were doing the reservations. I was with my family at Yosemite at the time of that announcement and the time of Elon saying you can reserve the car. By the time I was able to get to a computer, because I was in Yosemite, the amount of people who had reserved the Model 3 was just astronomical. And I thought to myself, forget it. You know, I'm just gonna go with the flow of things, and we'll see what happens. So, you know, let's fast forward a few more years. The Model 3 finally gets on production, and people are getting into their cars. Well, it wasn't until a couple of months after that that a friend of mine posted on his YouTube or on his Facebook page that he had received his Model 3. Like, what? So I contacted him, and the mistake I made was going to his house and taking it for a test drive. So I drove my little Leaf, which was actually a bit of a distance away, and I had some range anxiety even on a full charge to get to his house. But I did it, and I was able to get back without any problems. But that being said, I went to his house, and I got in the car. And the second I got in the car, I was already hooked before I even put it in drive, all right? Once I put it in drive, then I was even more hooked. So I was talking to him about how much it cost, and he told me what it cost him out the door. And I believe I remember him saying it was a close to the $60,000 range. And I remember thinking to myself, no, I don't know if I can do that. And so I felt as though my dream had been crushed once again. Well, I was so addicted to the car that once I got back in the Leaf and was driving home, I just started brainstorming. I'm a guy who has always had a budget. I'm very financially, as my wife likes to put it, fiscally responsible. That all being said, was buying this car the most fiscally responsible thing for me to do? Absolutely not. This was something that I've wanted for a while, and I'd made it happen. So again, upon driving home, the wheels started turning in my head. How can I get myself into one of these cars? Well, I got home, went over the budget, and I was able to make it happen. Shift a few things here and there, make it happen. And one of the deal breakers, or one of the things that for me was huge, was getting in on the federal tax rebate, because I knew that once Tesla sold its 200,000th car, I wasn't going to be able to get the rebate, or I forget exactly what it's called. I'm going to call it a rebate. That may not be the correct term. I apologize. But anyway, so I contacted a friend of mine whose son-in-law works as a sales rep for the Tesla in general. And he was able to convince me, says, well, listen, we're going to see what we can do, but you got to order one now. So I did. I went online and I ordered it. And to my surprise, it was, I want to say 2 months later, that this car was sitting in my garage. I was astounded. I never imagined that I'd be able to get one that fast. But I think once Elon upped the amount of cars, the production line getting up to 5,000, and was able to fulfill a lot of the reservations, and also realizing that really a large portion of people with the reservations were the $35,000 range people. So that's why I think I was just kind of, there was some misconception as far as how long it would take. So again, I was very surprised. So again, I want to make it clear to everybody who's watching this that this was and is a stretch for me to have a car payment this big. But again, since I'm getting the state and federal refund, I'm going to have $10,000 in my hand come tax time, and then that's when I go back to my credit union and refinance this car. That is going to drop my payments down to as much as, I believe, around $250 a month, and that is the payment that's much more doable for me. But even that is kind of high. Just kind of give you an idea. Right now, my payment is $850 a month. I'm hoping to get that with my rebate down to about $600 to $650 a month. And again, a $600 to $650 car payment is still by far the largest car payment I've ever had. And it's still not the most comfortable of numbers for me when it comes to a car payment, but it's a reality that I've got to face, and that's why I'm messing around with my budget to make this happen. So again, I want to make it clear that I'm not one of those guys that has more money than he knows what to do with and just went out and bought the Tesla Model 3 when it was available. Because I certainly could have gone even higher, right? You've got the performance model. I mean, it gets up into the 70,000 range. Now we're getting into the lower end Model S's. And I'm like, no, I can't do that. And so I've got the long range, rear wheel drive. The only options I put on this car that I decided to do myself were the white paint, $1,500, and the wheels, $1,500. I'm sorry. I think those Aero wheels are absolutely hideous. And I understand they may help with the range a little bit, but that to me wasn't worth it. These cars have phenomenal range. To get yourself an extra 5 or 10 miles, please, man. I owned a Nissan Leaf. 5 or 10 miles there, yeah, that's a big deal. But in this thing, no. Range anxiety I've ever had because of the Leaf, that is completely out the door now, all right? So again, I apologize if you like the Aero wheels, you know, to each their own. So again, this is just to kind of give you where I'm coming from. And I understand, for those of you who are watching and you still want to get into one of these things, but you still can't afford the packages that are out there available for the Model 3 now, at least even the $49,000, which is the lowest you can get it at this point. If you can't afford that, and I understand, I'm with you, man, I get it. If you're waiting for that $35,000 car, hang tight. It's going to happen. Hopefully we can, within early next year, 2019, hopefully, you know, Elon can get on his game and get that going. And I'm rooting for it. I'm rooting for all the people who are waiting for that $35,000 car. Like I said, I would much rather have paid that. But, you know, that all being said, since I do feel fortunate enough to be able to get into one of these cars at the current price that it is, I got to be honest with you, having the panoramic roof and having these faux leather seats, they call it the vegan leather, absolutely love it. Could I live without it? Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I don't need this, right? You don't need the leather seats. It's just an added luxury that I had to get. So I don't regret it. I don't look back and go, I should have waited. No, I absolutely love this car. I have no regrets, 100%. But here is the basic idea behind Frugal Tesla Guy YouTube channel. I want to throw myself in the ring here, see if I can be a success with this. I'm going to be talking about only the Model 3. I've never had a Model S. I've never had a Model X. I've only had a Model 3. So that's all I can give you insight on. I'm not going to talk about any other cars. I don't want to do it. This is the car. And this is going to be the car that I want, the channel I want for people to go to, where they want some information about how to care for the car, different advice on driving the car, enhanced autopilot. Is that worth it? We'll go into that maybe in another video. All different things. You can get third-party products, cleaning products, floor mats. I ended up with the third-party floor mat. There are wraps that you can get on the inside of the car, you know, the fingerprint magnet in the center console. There are things that you can get to cover that up. You can get full body wraps for your paint. There are all different things out there, and we're going to take a look at those and the cost of those, and is it worth it? All these different things, and that's kind of what I want to do. I want to help you maybe make a decision as to whether or not you want to pull the trigger on this thing. And maybe I'll even do another video on that, on why you may or may not be on the fence. If you can afford the $50,000, give or take, $1,000 Model 3, why is it that you're still on the fence on this? And maybe I'll go into that in another video. So if you haven't done so already, go to the bottom. I think it's the bottom there. You can like the page, and we'll see what we can do with this channel. And I'm willing to take suggestions and different topics, and we'll see what we can do with it. But that's kind of the overall idea. Frugal Tesla Guy. Yeah, Frugal Tesla Guy. That's what we're going with, I think. I think I talked about that with my wife, and she was cool with that. So, Frugal Tesla Guy. Over and out. We'll see you next time.